Should you really abandon your static site generator in order to be on the latest technology, or should you just go with these workarounds and use them as long as you can? Or what would you say to all of these companies that maybe have invested a lot in their current site and they are using these technologies, and now they are thinking about, okay, what's next in the next, I don't know, talking about a year or maybe 5 years, do we still use this technology, or should we abandon? Should we make a plan to stop using static site generators? Like, what would you say to those companies or enterprises?
Well, I think the answer is, as usual, it depends in way too many factors and that you need to consider. Think about this. I mean, you need to analyze and understand your edge cases. I can think about like, oh, I have a gazillions of images, or I have, I mean, a lot of like files or a lot of pages to build, or maybe I have, pages, a lot of pages interconnected. It means when I change something in a particular piece of content, I need to reflect this change in like several pages within my site. So you need to understand those edge cases and understand and trying to build like a POC or MVP on the new latest technology that you want to switch to understand if that is gonna really be able to handle that particular situation. Because the happy part is simple. We have seen all those demos, and as I like to call them, like Hollywood demos, that you can just do something and it's a shiny demo that works with a easy thing, but everything is I mean, within the scope of the particular features of the framework. The API is within the app, things like that. Again, so you need to understand your edge cases. Are you building a small site? Is your site built, I mean, based on, is your content on MDX files? Is your
Mm.
content coming from an API or for multiple APIs? Are you working with external services, like third-party services and things like that? Again, to understand what you want to move. And I mean, I can mention another case, as I recall. So we have this client. It's a big enterprise client, so they have their static side. The site still some pieces in Gatsby. We are helping them to migrate, incrementally to a different technology. In this particular cases, Adobe Experience, whatever. But there's some pieces of the site, or they have like microsites. They want to they want to keep using static, static site, or they want to keep still having those features. So they were discussing to move either, upgrade to the latest version of Gatsby or something else like Astro, Next.js. And at some point, they acquire another company, and that company they acquire has a lot of like Next.js developers. So
Mm.
the decision was easy at that particular case. They already have the in-house, experience to manage that. So we are only helping them to take some, decisions and some like architectural decisions and conceptuals about how to, go to that migration path. But again, there's a lot of like things you need to consider in order to do that. But long story short, as usual in every single migration, you should like make sure it's a gradual migration instead of going like all in full, migration. Like let's, swapping a site from another. Let's go and start as little pieces, like the block section or the resources section, or some like standalone pages, and trying to understand if that is gonna it's gonna work as you expected.
Right, right.
Yeah. And maybe, or phrasing it that way, should we abandon it? Like, that's a bit too extreme, I think. Especially for big organizations, that's way too risky to say like, okay, let's stop doing what we're doing and use something else. At the end of the day, I mean, it also depends, like Jesus said, on the scope of the migration. Like, if you're going to, like, if it's your own personal site, then do whatever. Like, probably you're going to have like 10, 20, 30 pages. And at the end of the day, like, there's not a big organization behind that site, so
Mm.
you can probably do whatever you want. But with big organization, with enterprises, with thousands of pages, it's better to have a gradual plan. Maybe as Jesus said, evaluate your needs, your edge cases, and maybe start working on once you identify, okay, these are the needs that I have, and this tool seems to be something that we can use. Then well, okay, start setting the foundations for that migration. Maybe start with a smaller section, for example, like leveraging of that microsite of like that split between the different sections of the site. Maybe you can start with a smaller section, maybe less critical, something that even if it goes wrong, probably won't have as big of an impact as, say, for example, you're changing, uh, I don't know, like your login pages or something like that, like something more critical. And set those foundations well, like work on that, do iterative approaches. And once it works, and you have that foundation, a working example of, okay, we can do this. We already did it on this part of the site. Then we can start, talking about migrating different parts, and really pushing towards that sunsetting of the technology you use towards something else, something probably different.
Yeah, yeah.
I will probably add in making sure you have a rollback,
Oh,
action that
yeah.
you can trigger, if something goes wrong.
Mm.
And that's, I know that's, it's maybe more expensive, because maybe for some time you will have like both sides simultaneously. And maybe you can start introducing A/B testing for those things, little by little. There are plenty of options to do a migration, but I mean, definitely it should be like, like gradual migration, little by little, and making sure everything works, just instead of like going like all, switching the whole side, full technology. And most of the cases, I mean, and let's go back to the Gatsby conversation, because we've been doing a lot of Gatsby for static sites. Maybe you want, since you're using Gatsby, you're using React, and you want to keep a lot of those. I mean, you want to try to keep some of the work that you already done, all the investment you already done. Can I keep using some React pieces on what I want to migrate? So maybe that's another reason for taking a decision which technology framework you want to move to.